Fire development. It's essential that you understand the principles of fire development on how a fire grows and spreads through a building. You need to understand these principles to enable you to determine the ventilation requirements. Now, the fire produces hot gases which rise above the fire, forming a plume. As this plume rises, it entrains cold air, and this increases its mass flow rate and the diameter of the plume. Now we're going to look at the smoke layer that descends at a known rate later. For now, we're going to concentrate on the stable smoke layer of known thickness. Now, as stated, the designer needs to decide how thick the smoke layer can be allowed to become. And what do they need to consider? Well, first of all, they need to consider that smoke must be kept at a safe height above people who may be escaping beneath it. And normally the height we look at is 3 metres for members of the public and 2.5 metres for members of staff. Now, members of the public may be slower to react to the fire situation, they may be less mobile than the staff, and may require extra reassurance, and that's why they need an extra clear layer height. That's why they're given 3 metres rather than 2.5 metres. Now, we've also got to look at sacrificial areas when designing these systems, because it should be noted that there are times when smoke would be allowed to enter rooms or areas that are prone to smoke damage, and those times are when the designer, in consultation with the building user, has decided that the areas under threat can be considered to be sacrificed in the unlikely event of a fire occurring. In other words, we're not worried if the smoke gets in these areas, there's no occupants in there, or they'll be gone because they meet the acceptable travel distances, they'll be gone by then. These are called sacrificial areas. Now, the base of the smoke layer stabilises out at what we shall call the equilibrium height of the base of the smoke layer. So that's what it's called, equilibrium height. When the amount of smoke leaving the smoke reservoir through the ventilators or fans is the same as the smoke that is entering the smoke layer from the fire plume. So when you've got the same going out as you have in, then you've got your equilibrium height. Now, this diagram here shows you the formation of the smoke layer at ceiling level. As smoke accumulates, the layer thickens and the base descends. The smoke layer, the plume and the layer of clear air beneath the smoke layers are viewed as being 3 separate zones, as you can see here. 3 separate zones. Now, that covers a basic design for most situations, and the plume is considered to be a simple plume because it's a simple plume because it originates in the compartment where you're actually exhausting all the ventilation. That's where the fans are, and the extraction is where the fire is. That's called a simple plume. However, there are situations where the smoke may travel some distance before being extracted, and this is known as a complex plume. For example, in a shopping mall, it's a good example of one, where the fire starts in a shop, comes out of the shop, travels down the balcony, hits a spill edge and reaches an atrium. That is called a complex plume, and obviously there's more calculations involved and a lot more smoke entrainment. Now, a good example of a complex plume, as I said, is a shopping complex or a shopping centre, and this is what I'm going to go through now, the principles of shopping centres. Now, shopping centres pose a particular risk in the event of a fire due to the large numbers of people who are present at any one time. A typical centre may comprise of many individual shop units opening into a common mall. They're generally separated from each other by a dividing wall of fire-resistant construction, and usually the shop is either open-fronted, so it's clear, or it's only separated from the mall by a glass shop front, which obviously in a fire situation is likely to break unless it's fire-resistant or the sprinklers put it out. But it's just got a typical glass front. This means that the public areas of the entire centre can be effectively undivided, so the rest of it is totally undivided. Now, means of escape within each shop unit will in general be specified in the same way as for shops which are not part of an enclosed complex. In other words, you're going to meet the travel distances in the individual shops. They're going to be able to get out of the shops, that's the travel distances, you'll have met them. So that's why you don't necessarily need smoke control in the individual shops, because they are met by normal guidance. They meet the travel distances, you don't need smoke control in the individual shop. So this means that escape from within the shops is specified as if the mall were as much a place of safety as the usual open sky street. In other words, as if there's no roof on it. However, the mall is a street with a roof, and so cannot be regarded as being safe as an open top street. In other words, if they've got no top there, all the smoke's going to go out. We have got a roof on there. Smoke is going to gather. You are not safe. You're not at a place of total safety. People escaping from a shop into a mall will still need to travel along the mall before exiting to a true place of safety. And it follows that the mall constitutes an additional stage to the escape route, which needs to be protected from the effects of fire and smoke. Now, if you're not going to protect it with loads of compartmentation, which they don't want to do, they don't want loads of compartment walls, compartment floors, they want an open feel. Well, if you're going to do that, if you're not going to use compartmentation, you need another method, and that's where smoke, heat and exhaust ventilation system comes in. So, ideally, it should approach the same level of safety as a street for as long as people need to escape through it. In other words, you've got to maintain the clear lay height for sufficient time for that building, complete area to be totally evacuated. Now, people will generally be unfamiliar with the escape routes and are likely to evacuate the way they came in. You know that? Human nature, people like to go out the way they came in. And in the mall, it's likely to be the same. Where did I come in? I'm going to go down that route. So it could be quite a long travel distance. Even though you put signs everywhere, some people don't follow them. They're like sheep. They go the way they came in, so you could have quite long travel distances. Now, the shopping centre will have early warning and sprinklers to control fire growth. So they will have sprinklers and early warning in the shops. However, statistics show that it's the smoke that causes fatalities, not the fire. However, because you've got sprinklers in the shops, it's going to maintain the fire size down to a reasonable standard, so you're not going to get as much smoke, but it is the smoke that kills people, so you still have to consider the smoke coming into there. The ideal option is to install smoke control, in other words, a smoke heating ventilation system in every single shop. Now, this is very expensive and it's difficult to achieve. However, it's sometimes the only option. For example, if you've got a very small you've got a very good small height, ceiling height, some could have the smaller ceiling height, say 3 metres, you can't let the smoke go down there, so you've got a slot extractor, you've got to extract it, but it comes out of the shop. Sometimes you've got no choice. Generally, it's more practical to allow the smoke to enter the main mall and extract it there. So let it come out of the shop and then extract it. Now, in situations where smoke from a fire in a single shop unit could spread rapidly via the malls through the entire centre, a smoke exhaust ventilation system in the mall is essential to ensure that escape is unhindered by ensuring that any large quantities of thermally buoyant smoke remains above the people who may be escaping below it. Therefore, in shopping malls, the primary role of the smoke control system is one of life safety. Secondary is property protection and access for the fire service. The primary role is life safety.